What's up, YouTube peeps and kayaking freaks? Adam here with the Ackleberry. And you know, just lately I went on my first kayak camping trip down the Pomme De Terre River in Missouri here. And there's a few things I learned pretty quickly after that trip that I think I would have, or would change, or will change for the upcoming trip. So stick with me, I'm going to let you know what that is. Now, one of the first things I think I would have changed, or that I'll try to do a little different this next time, is time. We kind of got out there a little bit late, and when it was a river that we didn't know, had some spots picked out to camp that I saw on like Google Earth, but again, I didn't know the river, so I think from what you see from Google Earth to what actually shows up when you're running that river, obviously it's two different things, because the spot that I had picked out for my initial camp spot didn't work out. Now, part of that was just the way that the landscaping was. The other part of it was the rifle shots just on the other side of the river that continued on and on. So that's the first thing I'd change, is to get out there a little bit earlier, so that way when the first part doesn't work out, you still got plenty of time to get to your second, third, maybe fourth option, and still have plenty of time to set up camp. Now, although I do need to increase my speed with setting up camp, which will come naturally, and that would help quite a bit and give me a little bit of breathing room, so to speak, I still think it'd be a good idea to give myself plenty of time to choose camp on a river that I haven't been on previously. Now, the other thing that's worth mentioning is that I did take my LED lanterns out there, and they say they're 146 lumens a piece. If you saw my video on the Malamute LED lanterns, you saw that I compared him to a lantern that was supposedly 70-some lumens, and the 70-some seemed to shine just about as bright as these 146 lumen lanterns did. Now, the thing about it is even though I could put them in 4 different locations, it didn't seem like they put off as much light when it's pitch black outside as I'd kind of hoped. Now, they still worked out. They still worked out comfortably. I was able to see my campsite area and stuff, but I got to thinking, maybe I ought to try next time to bring the lantern. Now, the lantern says that it's about 800 lumens, and I just have one of these simple ones that has a nice little packing thing, but it's just one of those that screws on top of a nice little propane canister, which is still fairly cheap. And then it sits in the space, of course, and you know, you'd have to move it wherever, but I think that would provide a little bit more light, and I'm kind of eager to see what this would be like next time. Now, I realize this gets hot, and I'm not in a tent or anything, I'm sleeping in a hammock, so I'm not going to have it close to any gear and stuff like that, but I am curious to see how this would do as opposed to the LED lights. So we'll see. That's something I think that I will change for the next one, and I still may bring some of those for backup. The con to this is that this guy's kind of bulky, and he is going to take up a little bit of room in the yak, but I think that last time I certainly wasn't overpacked, and I still had a little bit of room left, so I think I could have brought it with me. Probably one of the biggest things when I was out there and paddling, especially when I hit the parts where the winds were real strong, and it seemed like no matter how hard I tried to paddle, I wasn't getting anywhere. The thing that I forgot, and you may have heard me mention in the actual trip video, is the fact that I didn't bring any gloves. And so yeah, I wore my hands out, got a few blisters, nothing that a novice paddler isn't going to experience and stuff, but I could have cut that down to a minimum if I just would have brought some gloves. And these guys are bicycle gloves. They're very thin, some mesh on top, very breathable, but they're very protective on the bottom, with a little bit of padding, things of that nature. And I actually left these in the truck, so they were with me, I just didn't grab them. It wasn't the only thing I didn't grab. I did forget a couple lights, and I forgot what else it was. I still forget, see? Forgot then, I forget now. Where's that Ginkgo Bilbo at? The other thing I noticed when I was out there, and we really needed to get camp set up at this time, was getting firewood ready. Now, for this particular trip, Jesse actually ended up getting most of our firewood ready while I was up setting up the tent, or not the tent, but the hammock and the tarp and things of that nature, and the ridge lines and all that. So she was actually down using the Baco Laplander to saw up quite a bit of firewood for us, which was very nice. I mean, she worked equally as hard as I did with getting camp set up for us. And we just did get it set up in time for the sun to go down. It turned dark very quickly. We had a meal, had a good time. Unfortunately, we didn't get to film a lot of that, but one of the things that I noticed was that as good as the Baco Laplander is supposed to be, and he's a very aggressive saw. You guys have seen this many times, and there's endless videos on YouTube about how cool the Baco Laplander is. And again, he's a very aggressive saw. But the problem is it seems to me that he's super efficient in some of the smaller the sticks and things, but when you're starting to want to cut larger ones, because we had a lot of deadwood or whatever that was about yay big, but I found that it took quite a bit of work with this guy. Now, he's still going to be a part of my pack, and he's still coming with me kayak camping, but I really wanted to look into getting a foldable bow saw, and I've got my eye on one now that's about 21 inches. I believe it's Swedish made steel blade. I don't know if it's called a Sven or what it is, but it's a 21 inch one, but folds up, I think about to, I don't know how big it is, but it's just like a very straight bar. It packs down. It's fully made of aluminum. It's very light. It'd be easy to take in a kayak, and I think I'd like to use that next time and be able to see how much quicker we can process wood, because I think that if you get to a campsite kind of late, you're probably going to want to get your wood ready and process as quickly as possible, so that way you can have your fire if that's what you want for that night. So one of the things that I wish I knew, or that I'm glad I know a little bit now, and wished I could have used in the last kayak camping on Pomme De Terre River, was my paddling technique, or actually should I say the way that I have my paddle. Now, I have a paddle that is capable of feathering 45 degrees, I believe it is, and then I think it's 90 degrees. And I don't really know all the technical lingo that goes with the feathering, but I understand that the reason a lot of people use it now, and the reason a lot of people like it, is because it really blocks, or it keeps the wind from blocking it. And so, you know, one of the things that I noticed when we was out there, mostly when we were paddling the river and the current was with us, you know, when it was taking us down river stuff, everything was fine, it was smooth. It didn't take a whole lot of work for us. It was very, very easy going. But then we got to the section of the river where the lake actually backs up to it. If the dam has let out, I believe it is, the lake backs up into it. Plus we had wind gusts of up to 30 some miles an hour, and relatively pretty constant wind. Even when it was not that strong, it was pretty constant wind. So we were getting a heck of a workout. And one of the things that I noticed is that when I was paddling, if I went to paddle, I could feel the wind push against the top of this side. And then of course if I went here, I could feel the wind pushing on this. And I thought that was kind of interesting, and it kind of, at the time I was thinking, man, you know, there's got to be a way to keep that from happening. And probably what happened is I picked up a little tip from watching other people's paddling tip videos and things of that nature. But the thing about it is I can actually supposedly rotate or feather this paddle a little bit like this. I don't know if you can see both ends, but there, let's see, I'll get him straight on this side, and that leaves this guy feathered just a little bit. And I believe this is a 45-degree angle. But supposedly, if this happens, you're supposed to be able to dip with one, and the other side kind of slices better. It's not as flat, but it slices better through the air. And that really would have helped out quite a bit when that wind was so strong against me to get my paddle to actually slice through the air. But man, oh man, I'm gonna have to give that a shot. I know it's gonna be a little bit of a learning curve, but I'm thinking that it's gonna pay off big time in case I end up facing, you know, high winds and things of that nature. One of the things that I addressed to was my kayak. I don't believe the design of it is the best, being a 10-foot kayak and recreational. Cutting through waves and you know, penetrating the wind and things of that nature, it just doesn't slice through the water as good as I'd like it to be. So I've actually addressed that, and now I have a Wilderness Systems Pungo 140, so she's a 14-footer coming, and just by looking at the design, seems to be a whole lot better. One thing I learned about the kayak I have now is it doesn't jump logs. Here we go. You can see the ramp wreck, and totally wrecked. It doesn't even go over very well. It's probably the worst possible design possible to have to go over logs, and there were quite a few that we sometimes skimmed at things like that. But this new Pungo I have, the design is better. It may not be the best, but it's better in case I end up running into something a little bit under the water I didn't catch. Maybe being able to go over it a little bit and things of that nature. So